and welcome to my plant channel Chlorophyll is the New Black. My name is Carla, and for whoever is new, this channel is about plant care and plant projects. Today I'm going to do another CareCollab, and as well for whoever haven't heard about these CareCollabs, they basically feature one orchid that many orchid growers or YouTubers or person that just has orchids in their house grow the same orchid in different conditions in different setups around the world. So they share their experience and what best works for them, and this may also what best works for you. So in the case that you want to check another channels, the channels participating will be now shown on the screen. And they will also be linked in the description below. Now let's start. Today we are going to be talking about the Renanthera Monachica, one of my favorite orchids of all times, and you will see why. The flowers are just so beautiful. Mine is now not in flower, and this specific one hasn't flowered, but I have also another Renanthera that has flowered for me several times because I have it for longer, and the flowers look relatively similar, so I can show you a picture of them. And I also have a seedling that I bought from this one that now is way bigger. And on top of that, I also have a hybrid of Monachica with citrina. So let's go and see the tips and tricks. Okay, these ones are the Renanthera Monachica / hybrid / species that look very similar in flower to the Monachica. So I will start with the Monachica. This one is a mature specimen of the Monachica that hasn't bloom yet for me, and this one is a seedling that I have been growing now for maybe more than a year. So it is cutting up, as you can see. Well, obviously still smaller, but it's catching up to the size of this one. So I hope that soon it will speed up and give me flowers as well. So this one also hasn't flowered for me yet, but it's a relatively new acquisition. But what I have had for a longer time is this one. And this one, I actually bought it as a Monachica, but then the seller contacted me like after a year and told me, it's not a Monachica, it's actually a Matutina. That is, Monachica is a species and Matutina is another species. And flower-wise, they look very similar. I will show you later on the difference of the flowers. And then I have this one that is actually a hybrid between the Monachica and the citrina. Also, citrina is a species, so this is a primary hybrid, but I don't have the citrina. Now, let's talk about this orchid in the general morphology of it. Well, as you can see, this orchid is a monopodial orchid. That means that it has a main stem from which leaves emerge, and also roots, and also flower spikes. As I mentioned, this hasn't flowered for me, but as you can see here, this one that flowered for me, this is a dry flower spike here that I already cut. And another feature of this is that the roots can actually start growing like further up in the stem, like upper than the leaves. So you can see, for example, here, that I have some roots developing here, and you have the lower leaves in here. This is a bandaceous orchid, and it's also an epiphyte. That means that it doesn't grow on soil or so, it grows attached to trees. So it has normally the roots exposed to a lot of air. In my case, I have it potted because it's also quite thirsty and it can handle be potted. So for me, it's more convenient to have it potted than bare rooted, because otherwise I would have to water way more often. So normally, for me at least, it produces new roots in spring, and it doesn't have a dormancy. That means that all the year long it is growing or developing something, either a flower spike or vegetatively growing, producing leaves and roots. That, as you can see here, the roots are quite fleshy. So this is one root. You can see that it's quite thick and fleshy. And one funny fact is that they normally tend to grow away from the light. So for example, if the light would come on this direction, that actually for this orchid goes like on this direction, then the root will grow on the opposite direction. And I have a more obvious example with another Renanthera that I have in my kitchen, so I will put you footage. And yeah, in that one is way obvious that indeed the roots are just growing away from the light. And this makes sense because if the orchid wants to attach to a tree, then where there is no light most probably will be the trunk, because of course closer to the trunk there are more leaves that will cover the light. That means that somehow, I guess, these orchids are signaled to actually put their roots towards less sunny spots, where most likely they will find the tree trunk to actually attach themselves. Also, as I was mentioning, they don't have a dormancy. So they grow all year long, so they have to be fertilized all year long. The only thing to consider is that if you live in a climate that has a more obvious winter, like colder temperatures or so on, and less light, then you will notice for sure that it will start to grow slower, because less light, less temperature, the orchid will just develop way slower. That in my case, that's kind of the case. I mean, I grow this one inside in my apartment, but the temperatures go for sure lower than the rest of the year in winter. Also, something is that they're quite thirsty, so I normally try to water it when the soil is about to dry out, or just dried out a day ago or so, then I water it. And talking generally about care, they have no problem with humidity. So as long as you keep them well hydrated, they won't fuss at all. They have grown quite good, and as I mentioned, these two for me have flowered, so they have done quite good for me. But something important is that they will need bright light to generate flowers. So if they don't have bright light, that can be the reason why your orchid is not flowering. And in the case of these two, I mean, this one, I don't know, this one has been flowering reliably. I also have it for longer, so it's adapted to my setup since a while. And this one, I had it before in a southwest facing window, like not directly exposed to sun, because of course they can burn. So there, this one was quite happy, and that's when it decided to bloom. I had to move, so actually now I have it in another setup, and I haven't seen it flower again. Yeah, I saw quite a difference when it was exposed to warmer temperatures and also higher light. So now I'm trying to provide that to all of them, to see if, of course, I can make them bloom. But with those conditions that I give to this one, at least this one has been reliably blooming, as I mentioned. So I hope that this also catch up and start blooming very, very soon. So in that case, we can actually think that their care is like something in between Vanda care and Phalaenopsis care. If you have those orchids and know how to care for them, yeah, their care is basically something in between, considering that these ones need higher light, and of course they are from warm conditions. Now here I can do a super quick size comparison. So these are my Renantheras, and that's a fowl. And you can see here, like the ones that you buy in the flower shop. So this one, so if you look, well, that's the seedling, but if we put it against this one, you can see that actually even the fowl looks bigger than this. So what Renantheras have is that they normally don't grow like super wide like Vandas, but they can grow very tall, or at least like a couple of meters tall. So I also have another Renantheras that I will show you as well, that they are mostly like slim and growing up, and those leaves look more like Vanda type leaves. In this case, the Monachica and the Matutina, and I guess the citrina as well, have like more this a little bit triangle shape of the leaf, and they are very, very like sturdy and succulently like that. I actually love this shape. It's one of my favorite orchids, of the Monachica and the flower. I love it. I think that is one of my favorite flowers ever of orchids. So this orchid is actually very close to my heart because I just love it, and it's relatively easy to take care of. Like sometimes I have forgot to water it and it hasn't fussed a lot, and at least this one has bloomed reliably for me, and the care conditions should be actually very similar. So I guess that this may flower anytime, so I will keep you posted about it. And this is how I care for my Renanthera Monachica hybrids and similar species. Well, I hope this video was helpful for you. Of course, if you have any question about my setup, you can leave it in the comment below. And if you like the channel, consider to subscribe. If you like the video, give me a like. And when you subscribe, don't forget to click to the bell so that you are notified every time that I upload a new video. Also, I wanted to tell you that I have as well an Instagram account where you can check all my orchids in flower. You can find me as Chlorophyll is the New Black, as the name of my channel. And well, I hope to see you in my next video. Doei!